cozy friends, and welcome back to the Unraveled podcast. My name is Morgan, and on this channel we like to unravel with our cozy hobbies, mostly knitting and reading. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, grab a cup of something cozy and a project, and let's unravel. The final podcast of 2024. I really can't believe this is already here. This is my first year on knitting YouTube. This is my first year having a podcast, and I just am in awe of how much it has grown and that we have this cozy community. And I just want to say I am so thankful that you are here with me. As the end of the year is approaching, I have been tying up some loose ends on some projects. In this video, we've got 3 finished objects, 2 of which are garments, an insane amount of progress on a long-standing gift knit, as well as a cheeky new Christmas cast on, and a change of plans on a project I have cast aside. So as usual, before we dive in, let's chat about what has been helping us unravel lately, what has been bringing you comfort, and let me know what you are working on while watching. For me, my comfort and joy this month was really Vlogmas. I am so happy I got to participate in my first year of Vlogmas. I really didn't think I would be able to, because as a busy mom to a toddler, there's just literally no way I could do daily uploads, and in my mind that's what Vlogmas was. But once I realized that you can do weekly or just episodes, whatever capacity I was able to do it at, I just realized I could still participate but set my boundaries with it. And so that made me so happy that I was able to do it in a way that worked for me and was able to bring you comfort during the holidays as well. Before we jump into the first finished object of the month, I want to thank today's video sponsor, Skillshare. If you are wanting to learn a new skill or advance your comfort craft in the new year, Skillshare is an online learning community designed by creatives for creatives, with thousands of classes in a variety of topics ranging from art to business and everything in between. If you are wanting to learn a new fiber or textile art or expand your expertise on the crafts, there are classes like Sewing Basics, Make Your Own Clothing, and Modern Crochet, Essential Skills for Getting Started by Tony from TL Yarn Crafts, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. At the end of each year, I reflect on my organization and planning of my crafts. I am taking Notion Masterclass, Maximize Your Productivity and Organization, so I can get more organized with my yarn stash and project planning in 2025. Skillshare classes are taught by industry experts with a learn-by-doing approach to teaching, where members can create and share a project after completing a class, getting feedback from the community. It is an on-demand platform with stackable lessons, so members can learn at their own pace, no matter the skill level. So whether you want to begin or expand your creative journey, first 500 people to click my link in the description will get a 1-month free trial to Skillshare. Thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. So without any further ado, let's dive into talking about my first finished object of the month, what I am wearing. My Ranunculus blouse is complete. This is the Ranunculus sweater, and I will have the designer's name on the screen. I am knitting it in Fibra Naturals Papyrus yarn in the color yellow. I absolutely love this yarn. I would buy it again. I would knit a million things out of this. All of my summer knits I want out of this yarn. The Ranunculus sweater is the most beloved and renowned pattern in the knitting community. It has the most projects on Ravelry to date, and I think most knitters who have the pattern knit it multiple times. So I really felt like this was a rite of passage knit, and I really wanted to see what all the hype was about. However, as much as I love this yarn and think that this is a beautiful shirt on me, I don't know if I love the pattern. I had fun knitting it. It is on a very large gauge. I think it's knit with a 6mm in the pattern, but I definitely gauged down, and for that the sizing is a lot more tight fitting, which is what I wanted. I still have a little positive ease, but not very much. And I think the pattern recommends like 20 to 30 centimeters of positive ease, which is quite a lot. So I did some of my own yarn math and changed the gauge in order to have a more tight-fitting summer shirt. But the main mistake I made with that was not adding more length to the body because of creating a shallow yoke. I should have made it longer. These are really high-waisted shorts, and when I raise my arms, the shirt definitely comes up. This is currently unblocked. I have not blocked it yet, so we'll see how the fit looks after a block. I did add the short rows at the top of the back, but not at the top of the front, and I do think that helped to raise the back of the neck a little bit. So I guess this was my first time doing short rows. I definitely thought I hadn't done short rows before this week, but apparently I have. Here are the short rows on the back. I do think that my least favorite thing about this design is that it has very much a handmade look to the yoke and to the design. I don't think that this is one of those knits where if you told someone you made it, they would not believe you. I really like patterns that look quite classic and like almost store-bought constructions. So for that reason, this isn't my favorite knit, but I am quite happy with it. Apparently my Christmas tree lights went off. Hold on. They're on a timer. I'm not sure how long ago those turned off, but the Christmas lights are back. I really do like wearing it. I feel very cute in it, but I think the majority of that is the breeziness of the yarn. And I can really see myself someday frogging this and using this yarn for maybe a Sari lace knit, a beautiful top. If I were to use this yarn for a Sari top, it would probably be the Poet Tee, because I was able to get that as a free complimentary pattern for test knitting the Belle and Sebastian pullover for her, which is actually out now, and we will talk about that knit a little more later on in this video, as it is still a whip. I feel like I learned so much while working on this because I was doing a lot of calculation through modifying my gauge, and I learned a lot about how to make the yoke a depth you'd like. I do think I could have made my yoke a little longer, but I am so proud of myself for all of the calculations I did here and how much I learned when it comes to constructing the perfect raglan for your body. And I think the next time I make a tee, I will be able to apply that information a little better. Let's talk about the second finished object this month, and it is my Arctic Light sweater by Kutovakika. Even though it is the middle of the summer here in Australia, I'm gonna have to pop this on for you because it grew so much with blocking in the best way, and I really want you to see the drape. If you watched the vlog of me finishing this, we ran into some yarn chicken on the second sleeve, and it was considerably shorter. So I want you to see how the sleeves ended up fitting because I'm so happy with how it grew. So yeah, it's gonna be way too warm in this for me to wear it for very long, but I wanted to show you how these sleeves grew. They actually rest at my wrist instead of like a bracelet length, which they were before the block. And I'm really happy with it. I'm so proud of myself. I shared in the vlog of finishing this project that I cast it on December 16th last year as the first full-size adult sweater I'd ever cast on, which is so ambitious, but there was okay, I've got to take this off to finish talking about it. Okay, that's so much better. I was literally starting to break a sweat within minutes. We've had a heat wave going on here lately, so it's really not sweater weather down here. But as I was saying, I cast this on exactly a year ago, and I really felt capable of doing this coming off of finishing the folklore cardigan, which was my first ever hand knit project. I did crochet prior to knitting, so I had some comfortability with holding yarn, but it was still so very ambitious of me. But Kutovakika has an entire tutorial for this on her channel, so it felt very accessible and doable for me. It was a really fun knit, and when I did work on it in spurts over the year, I would finish whole sections of it very quickly. So it shouldn't take a year to knit. I just lost motivation at times, and part of that is because of the yarn I was using. I knit this in Lion Brand Schitt's Creek collaborative yarn in the color A Little Blush. It is a 100% acrylic worsted weight yarn, and since I have started working with natural fibers, I just kind of lost interest in finishing an acrylic garment. But I will say it is so very soft, and I think it'll be a nice addition to have in my wardrobe nonetheless, because it's beautiful and this yarn wasn't going to become anything else anyways. There are a lot of cables on this, and there's a different section on the front than there are on the sleeves. So when you are doing the yoke, it is a lot to learn all at once, especially as a beginner. But I managed, so if I can do it, you can too. However, looking back, I feel like I could have started with something like the step-by-step sweater tutorial by Handmade by Florence. I think that would have been a lot of an easier beginner knit. And as I said in my vlog, I got really lucky with gauge on this one because prior to some of my most recent knits, I didn't gauge swatch at all. So I got really lucky by just using the recommended yarn weight and the recommended needle size, and it ended up fitting and being really just right on gauge. So again, just got really lucky with this one. But I'm just glad that this became a finished object finally and that I can wear it. This yarn has been discontinued, but I do have more in storage in the United States. So when we return, I will be able to add the extra rows on the cuff that we were not able to add in Yarn Chicken. So this is definitely wearable, it's salvageable, and I would definitely knit this project again. It is so fun to knit, it's beautiful. I love Kutovakika's designs. The last finished object you've probably seen hanging behind me, but it is the December stocking by Petiteknit. I knit this for my son, but I made a lot of modifications on this one. I also knit this with an acrylic yarn, and that was not very fun to do on the cables. This was a lot stiffer of an acrylic yarn until it got blocked. It did soften with a block, but I knit it in Fiddlesticks Superb 10, I think, in the boldest red. But the modifications I made to this was adding a double folded 2x1 ribbed hem. I did an I-cord strap. Inside the diamonds, I did seed stitch instead of pearls, and I changed the cables completely. It is a paid pattern, so I probably shouldn't say what the cables are, but it is a type of braid. And I did 2x3 crossings, much like the Arctic Light or the Ballard Tee that I have both of the patterns for. So I took inspiration from those. I just think that it looks so beautiful, and I'm so happy with the modifications I was able to make. And this was my first time doing an afterthought heel, which was quite fun. And it worked up in a week, as you saw in Vlogmas number 1. Okay, now we are on to whips, and I am so excited to talk about the first one because it has been on my needles for a long time, I think since August, but it was meant to be a long-standing gift knit. My husband was not expecting it by any certain deadline, but I definitely had in mind that I wanted to give it to him by the next fall, which is in March here in Australia, and his birthday is also that month. We are talking about the Mille cardigan by Regina Moessmer, and as you can see, the entire shawl collar is on. As you can also see, if you are new to this journey with this knit, I added steeking stitches so that I could knit it in the round and not have to purl up on a man-sized cardigan. So it very much has languished. I've picked it up and put it down at times, and it's been really nice to have as a stockinette side whip. But we got well past that point once I finished the body, and I had a whole lot of ribbing to do. Once I got there, I actually was having a great time. I was so excited to work on it, and I will say I learned a lot about my ribbing tension while working on this. I was tightening my yarn way too much while working this ribbing, so it has a lot of like a zigzag texture. Ignore those loose ends I need to weave in. But it has a lot of zigzag in the ribbing. I really believe all of that will block out. And I also was surprised that it has an I-cord edge on this button band shawl. As you can see, when I open up this collar, it was a lot of ribbing, and I was working short rows back and forth. It almost looks like it's a hood with how much ribbing this shawl collar was, but it worked up really fast because I was just really excited to be working on the short rows, and I kept track of them with a little row counter. I also added buttonholes into the button band, and I have the tutorial I followed in the Knitting for Beginners playlist. I'll have linked down in the description. This is the buttonhole technique I used from that video. I think it's like the third one. I have complete the pockets and sewed in the lining. Let me pop this on for you briefly so you can see everything I'm talking about. Obviously, this is sized for a man, so it doesn't fit my body, but I think the collar looks so good. My husband tried it on after I finished it, and he's so excited and happy about how it is working up. It is the exact fit he wanted, and the way I managed to make it the perfect fit was I took measurements from his favorite sweater vest. It's like a quarter zip, and I measured the bust circumference with the ease he likes, and was able to use my gauge to do some yarn math and make sure that he would end up with the size he wanted. What I ended up having to do was follow the instructions for the size medium, but I'm knitting slightly off gauge. So that is actually giving him a bust circumference somewhere between a medium and a large, which is exactly what he wanted. I do think that the pockets could be a bit neater. I think they look like they, you know, you can see where they're sewn in. But I did the mattress stitch and I think it, you know, it does the job. I don't think he's probably going to use them that much, but I did modify the pockets. In the pattern, it just has a rolled hem on the top of this. It just kind of rolls over. So I did 8 rows of 1x1 knit rib so that it would be a lot neater. I hope you guys cannot see me literally sweating holding this wool in my lap. And I am knitting it in Knit Pick Simply Wool in the color Winnie. It is a beautiful worsted weight yarn. I bought this on a steep discount and I got 14 hanks of it to be able to make an entire cardigan for my husband and a sweater for myself as well, which this is going to come back up later in the video, so stay tuned. Oh, the finished object I didn't mention was my husband's socks. I have completed them, but they are wrapped under the Christmas tree. Don't tell him. So I will insert a picture of what they looked like once they were finished. I knit them in Cascade Heritage sock yarn in the color Mossy Rock. It is so gorgeous and it's such a nice, soft, luxurious sock yarn. I kind of made up the pattern, but on the front it is a 2x2 rib. On the back it is all stockinette. With them being ribbed men's socks, they definitely took a bit longer and a bit more motivation to work on, but I'm so happy to give them to him very soon. He definitely knows about them. They're not a surprise. He tried the first one on once it was done and also along the way, but he doesn't know they're complete, so it's still gonna feel a little bit like a surprise. Now let's talk about the test knit. I am so excited to show you guys. Oh, it's so soft. Oh my gosh. Let me pop it on. I am literally going to die of heat exhaustion. It actually feels so lightweight. This is the Belle and Sebastian Pullover by Sari Nordlund. Obviously, the test knit for the Belle and Sebastian has come to an end. The pattern is out now and I will have it linked down in the description for you. It was such a fun, quick knit. I only had to knit the upper yoke panels and one sleeve for the test knit, so I have not yet finished the body and the other sleeve and the collar, forgot that part. I got accepted for this test knit on Halloween and had until November 28th to finish what you see here, and I did not have time to order yarn in. So I went to my local yarn shop and they had Sigur Soft in the color E0. This is a 56% alpaca, 44% organic Pima cotton. There are 125 meters and 50 grams. This yarn is a pleasure and a dream to work with, and so is this pattern. It is the perfect combination. It is absolutely heavenly. I have nothing but amazing things to say about this project. This was my first test knit. It was a very hands-off test knit. We had a host for the test knit that we could report our feedback to, but there was no group chat or anything of that sort. I did have to go up an entire millimeter to a 5.5 millimeter needle in order to meet gauge for this project. But other than that, literally everything was so smooth sailing, and I am so excited to finish this by fall and winter here in Australia. It will be the coziest, softest, dreamiest thing in my wardrobe. It is so beautiful, truly. And this is my first time working with what I would consider a luxury yarn. It is the most I've ever spent on one sweater's quantity, and coming in at 160 Australian dollars, which I will put the conversion for American currency on the screen. And sometimes when I'm doing big purchases like that, I will admit I use my American credit card because there's no transaction fees on it, and when I get the notification, it tells me the American price instead of the Australian, so it feels a little like I've spent less than I did. That is one major benefit of living in Australia as an American, because things here do seem a lot more expensive, but once I do those conversions, it can definitely make it less painful. Okay, now it's time to talk about my cheeky Christmas cast on. I cast this on about a week before Christmas, but only because I had finished so many of these whips. And it is my Jenny jacket by Petiteknit. I have had this on my dream knit list for quite a long time, and I think the hesitancy consistency for it was not only because I wanted it to be like perfect, but I also knew that smocking stitch is pretty much just a whole lot of ribbing, and so I was intimidated by that. But I am learning to loosen up a little bit and not feel like tension is going to make my rib neater. So I think that is helping me enjoy working on this. I am knitting the Ginny Jacket V-neck by Petiteknit, and I chose the V-neck option not only because of this poll and you guys helped me pick it, but also because I love the way a drop shoulder construction looks on my body. I think it is so flattering. My favorite projects I've knit are drop shoulder, so I think it will be the perfect addition to my wardrobe. I am knitting it in Bindigo Woolen Mills Luxury 4-ply in the color Stone. Bindigo is a wool mill here in Australia outside of Melbourne, and I am holding it double with Drops Kid Silk in the color 12 Beige. This is my first time casting on a project with a mohair pairing. I've purchased mohairs for other projects, but this is my first time getting them on the needles, and it's a dream to work with. It's definitely not as tricky as I thought it would be to hold two strands. They just kind of sit together in my bag and they come out, together as I tug on my working yarn, and it is just so soft and luxurious. It is not itchy in my opinion, but this is also going to be a cardigan, so it will be a good opportunity for me to try out this mohair on my skin. It feels pretty low risk since I'll be able to layer it if it is an issue. The process of casting this project on was a bit tricky. It's the trickiest cast on I've ever done. You cast on a whole lot of stitches at once, and I kept count by adding a stitch marker every 50 stitches. Once you cast on the number of stitches you need, you slip stitches till you get to a certain point, and then you begin working short rows with all these extra stitches on your needles that you're not working. I definitely thought that this week was the first time I was doing short rows between the shawl collar and this, but apparently I had done them on the Ranunculus as well, so I've forgotten that. But the double stitch and keeping track of it was even easier on this project than it was on the ribbed shawl. So it flew by in quite a breeze, and now I am just working the back panel back and forth, and it feels like such a treat. I love casting on a dream knit project. The Ginny is worked in smocking stitch, and I personally feel like it is the most beautiful stitch pattern I've ever done. I love some cable knitting, but the smocking stitch really isn't even a cable. It's just kind of joining ribbing every certain so often. And so it's very mindless and meditative. It's quite fun. I think the trickiest part is knowing how much to tighten that smocking crossing when you do it. So far, so good. It's looking quite even, and I am knitting the size large, which will give me about 17 centimeters of positive ease. I really love how these yarns look together. It is so soft, and just really excited to have this on the needles, and I really felt like I had earned this cast on with all of the projects I have finished lately, so I have no shame in casting on my Christmas project a little early. And this is also going to be seen on my 2025 Make 9, because I still see this as a 2025 project. It's a Christmas, New Year's cast on, so we are definitely going to be seeing a lot more of this one. The last thing I want to chat about, I did update in last week's vlog, but I have had a change of plans on my birthday cast on. Back in September, I cast on the Dagmar jacket. It literally came out on my birthday, and I love this design so very much. It is a honeycomb cable paired with that diamond cable I can't get enough of. Since the folklore cardigan was my first knit, the diamond cable is one of the first things I learned, and I just love the way it looks. I love working on it. And it's funny because when I was working on the folklore cardigan, I definitely never memorized the way and the flow of how that cable project worked. I literally was referencing the chart the entire time. But once I worked on it for my book club cardigan, my cables just make sense to my brain, and I'm able to memorize the charts pretty easily and just know what I'm supposed to do by reading my work. I think that's something people talk about in color work, and I'm not there yet with color work. I definitely feel like cables are my specialty, and I love working on them. When I cast this on, I purchased Cascade 220 in the color 8686. It is a beautiful chocolate brown, and I love this yarn. However, I had to put this project down for some time to work on the Belle and Sebastian pullover. By the time I was ready to pick this back up, Petiteknit had not only released the Dagmar pullover, which already had me questioning which design I really wanted to make, but then she released the zipper version of the Dagmar, and I had a full second sweater's quantity of this Simply Wool from Knit Picks, and I was thinking about making a zipper sweater by Petiteknit in this yarn. But once I saw the Dagmar zipper, I really wanted to make it in this. So I have decided I'm going to frog this because I'm still going to make a jacket with this yarn. I think I'm going to put the Cardigan number 9 by My Favorite Things Knitwear on my Make 9 for 2025 so that I can still use this yarn for a jacket, and it's still very true to the plans I had for it. And now I can make the Dagmar in this beautiful grayish. This will also complement the cables even more than the depth of the chocolate brown. I think many knitters say that like doing cables on dark yarn is just pointless because you can't even see the dimension. I don't think that's the case. I think in person you can very much see dimension in cables on dark yarn. It's just that the way it shows up on camera gets lost in translation. So I'm not frogging this or changing my plans because of the yarn choice. I do think this would make a beautiful cardigan. I just really want to make that zipper, and I don't think I need 2 Dagmars in my closet, at least not right now. The end of the year always has me reflecting a lot on my growth as a person, my growth in my knitting, whatever it may be. And I want to thank you so very much for being here and following my knitting journey this year. There is so many exciting things to come in the next year. I can't believe how much this community and space has grown. Some videos you can expect from me very, very soon. Some of my hibernated knits that are going to be carrying on into 2025 with me, as well as everything I knit in 2024. I am especially excited to film that one because it was not only my second full year of knitting, but it was my first year of knitting YouTube. So I feel like things changed so much throughout this year, and I can't wait to see what we create next year. I would love to hear what your favorite thing you made this year was. Mine was definitely my book club cardigan. I am so proud of it and can't wait to talk about it again in the Everything I Made in 2024. Thank you again to Skillshare for sponsoring this video, and don't forget to check out the link in my description to get a 1-month free trial to Skillshare. I want to thank you so much for being here and unraveling with me. If you are not already, make sure you tap subscribe so you don't miss those future cozy videos. Thank you again for unraveling with me, and I will be wishing you a very cozy week.